Dane Wigington with Geoengineeringwatch.org. This is the first installment of the Climate Engineering News Q&A session. I've decided to devote time every week, Wednesdays, to answering as many questions on climate engineering as possible. You can submit your questions to questions@geoengineeringwatch.org. By submitting a question to this email, you're granting permission for your question and for your first name to be read online. If you don't want your first name mentioned, please state that you wish to remain anonymous. We apologize that we might not be able to answer all questions, though we'll do our best to answer as many as possible. It's my hope that by answering questions publicly, it will be of benefit to many. I wish to express my gratitude to all those that take the time to write, to listen to this Q&A session, and for the help with sounding the alarm. Our first question is from Justin. Justin asks this: what are the greatest challenges for disseminating geoengineering-related information and convincing others to recognize what is happening to our planet? This is a difficult task, certainly when you're trying to introduce someone to something that doesn't fit into their frame of reality. And many times less is more. You don't want to bombard them verbally and put their defenses up. What you want to do is plant seeds that will penetrate that programmed cognitive dissonance in regard to an issue as grave as climate engineering. Photographs and printed materials are often the best key to that door. Geoengineeringwatch.org, for that reason, makes available our printed materials for our approximate cost of producing and shipping. In fact, it's slightly less than our cost. We are at a slight loss with what we mail out. We're simply trying to cover most of our costs. But on the homepage of geoengineeringwatch.org, on the left column, are our informational materials. We print in very high volume quantities and pass that savings on. Passing on printed data is often much more effective, certainly more effective than taking someone outside, pointing at the sky and ranting. That puts their defenses up. They shut down. You want to plant seeds that will sprout on their own. Can't wake someone up who's pretending to be asleep, as the proverb goes. So we need to plant seeds and we need to play chess effectively. So keep that in mind. There's more thorough instructions on the left column of the geoengineeringwatch.org homepage under the activist suggestions link. One more question from Justin. He asked this: are any of your family members actively playing any role in this cause of spreading awareness about and altogether stopping geoengineering efforts? Short answer is yes. Part of my family hasn't spoken to me for 8+ years. So they're certainly not helping in this cause. In fact, quite the opposite. But my immediate family, yes, very involved. Our home looks like a postal mailing center. We have materials everywhere. We have containers here near my home that are full of materials as well, because we mail all over the globe. We don't have much time. So yes, the family is completely involved with everything we do in this battle. And I'm extremely grateful for that. Thank you for your questions, Justin. Next message and question was from Kim. Kim states, I've been watching these chemtrails for at least 25 years now, and I've always pointed them out to family and friends. With some of them, they believed what I was saying, and the rest look at me like I have 3 heads. Anyway, Kim states, my question is, if their motive is to block out the sun, why do I always see them spraying just before a rainstorm is predicted? It's more like they want this blank to rain down on us. I've seen this almost everywhere. There is rain predicted. It is the incoming front, Kim, that they utilize to create the largest rainless cloud canopy they can. That's solar radiation management. That's where their seeding, their SRM seeding, is most effective. Not that this is benevolent in any way, shape, or form. It isn't. There's nothing benevolent in climate engineering. Everything they do is pounding the nails into our collective coffins. But when the incoming fronts, let's use the U.S. West Coast for an example, as rain approaches and the many times an atmospheric river, an AR, is in front of that, they seed that heavily, and that will broadcast that moisture, which adheres to the particulates, into a massive rainless cloud canopy. Often when fronts approach the U.S. West Coast, perhaps the westernmost 8 or 10 states will be covered in some sort of haze or canopy that's the siphoning off of that moisture and using it to create SRM cloud canopy before the rain even begins on the West Coast. So thus our rain comes late and less if it comes at all. And they continue to diminish rainfall in the U.S. West Coast. The drought here is absolutely horrific, getting worse by the day, not being discussed in any mainstream media forum or even any science forum for that matter. And that is why they seed in the front of these storms. They typically seed over the top of them as well. Chemical ice nucleation, especially in the winter months, which further siphons off that moisture, creating an endothermic reaction, which creates a cold dense layer in the clouds that descends to the surface, creating the temporary cool down that they desire for their agenda. But at what cost? At the cost of a worsened overall heating for the planet, destruction of the ozone layer, contamination of the entire surface of the earth, and toxifying every single breath we take. But that's why the front of storms are typically seeded the most heavily, not just in the U.S. West Coast, but countless other locations around the globe. Next question is from Theodora. Theodora asks this: who is paying for the geoengineering? Where does it show up in the budgets of the countries doing it? The money printers are paying for the geoengineering, Theodora, and it doesn't show up in any budget sheets anywhere. But let's look at what we do know. We know that the Pentagon, for example, is missing at least $30 trillion since the late 1990s. Where did they get that extra $30 trillion? And what else don't we know about? What other black ops money don't we know about? So the bottom line is this: those who control the money printers, especially in the case of the US dollar, the global reserve currency, can print whatever they want for whatever they want, and they have for many decades. So this is black ops money printed out of thin air, same way the stock markets are being kept afloat right now by producing money from nothing and literally purchasing our own debt, pumping up companies on the stock market, trying to pacify the U.S. population until the last possible moment so that they can maneuver as much as they can before total collapse unfolds, which is very close at this point. But that's where that money comes from. Those who control the money printers control militaries, thus they control countries, they certainly control climate engineering, and that's where the funds come from. Theodora further asks this: you say we will be dead or dying in 10 years at the rate we are going. What should I do to prepare for the next 10 years? First of all, what I have said is that within 10 years on the current course, we will likely not be here. So it doesn't mean things go along as they are for another 10 years or there's some slow, protracted decline. Mathematically and statistically speaking, again, on the current trajectory, we don't have 10 years. We face probable total ozone layer collapse within 5 to 6 years. 0 hour for wildlife on planet Earth in the same time frame. Bottom line is, once the links in the chain start to drop out and there's not enough to go around, the law of the jungle will prevail with blinding speed. The best way you can prepare: get out of the way. Urban areas will be certainly the most precarious. Food, shelter, water, those are the key elements. Economic anything in a currency sense doesn't mean anything. What matters, the true currency, will be what you can eat, what you can drink, and what you can shelter with. But while doing so, please remain at the front line. All of us need to continue waging this war against the insanity in our skies, to wake others up to this issue, to reach a critical mass of awareness. And if we can do that, we have a chance. If we can fully expose climate engineering, we have a chance of stopping it from the inside out. If we can get our U.S. military brothers and sisters to stand down, to stop participating, the families of those in private industries, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, to stand down. If we can expose and halt the climate engineering insanity completely and allow the planet to respond on its own, we could yet buy time. That is our only chance of buying time. So while preparing for what's coming, please continue in your efforts. I hope all of us do. It's essential that we all do, to help wake those around you and ask them to do the same, because we are rapidly running out of time. And our one chance to take a quantum leap in the right direction is to expose and halt the insanity in our skies. Theodora finishes with, thank you for all you do. I've purchased your materials to distribute, but have found, like you, that most people don't want to know. Thank you, Theodora, for your efforts to plant those seeds. And soon enough, those seeds will be forced to sprout. Heads will be ripped out of the sand when they have no other choice. So don't underestimate the good you have already done, and please continue with that effort. We need everyone to continue with that effort. Every day counts at this point. Thank you for your question, Theodora. B.A. Svetanov asks this: what happens when the, quote, experts cool the earth by, quote, chemtrails, and then the solar minimum becomes a Dalton or Maunder minimum in the next few years? Question mark. First, I need to make this point clear that if we're trying to introduce this issue to others, it's essential to use the science terms. The chemtrails term leads to conspiracy theory and hoax, and that's often as far as many people get when they investigate the issue because they weren't given the science terms, they didn't come to any science data, and they abandoned their investigation at that point. So it's imperative that we do use the science terms: solar radiation management, climate engineering, geoengineering, stratospheric aerosol injection. Learn the science terms, use those terms. The efforts to wake others up on this issue will be much more effective then. Second, climate engineering is not cooling the planet overall. It is heating the planet overall. Though they can create large-term regional cool downs, they come at the cost of a worsened overall warming. They're shredding the ozone layer, they're trapping more heat than they deflect, they're toxifying the entire surface, killing Earth's cooling mechanisms, killing trees from the roots up with the toxic materials. The intense UV radiation is killing the trees from the top down. The destroyed ozone layer is killing plankton, which also produces natural clouds. Climate engineering is a death sentence for the planet. It is not cooling the planet overall. I want to make that perfectly clear. Next, on the solar minimum narrative. That is a completely false narrative. I need to make that clear. We need to look at statistics and not believe some internet site that makes certain claims based on a sensationalized, engineered snowstorm somewhere. That is exactly what the climate engineers want. They want this kind of narrative pushed so that the population becomes confused as to the true nature of the planetary meltdown or the true extent of the meltdown. If you want to see what's happening with the cryosphere, the Earth's ice deposits, take the time to view, for example, a film called Chasing Ice. Non-political, simply film footage from around the world of Earth's ice deposits disappearing. So let's put this into statistical form. In the case of the Maunder minimum, how much solar irradiance did that actually block? 0.25%, 1/400th. Against the backdrop of what human beings have done to the planet, it means absolutely nothing, it means zero. The planet is currently warming at the thermal energy equivalent rate, that's the heat energy rate, of 4 to 5 Hiroshima bombs per second. That's 400,000 per day. Most of that warming has gone into the oceans. So the bottom line is, the solar minimums mean nothing against the backdrop of human activity, with climate engineering being at the top of the list. The heating is beyond exponential. The planetary changes at this moment are happening minimum, statistically, 170 times faster than any previous paleo event. The planet is in a state of total runaway meltdown. Climate engineering, in the attempt to mask that, create sensationalized headlines that are not in any way indicative of the true surface temperatures of the planet. So again, the coming ice age narrative, completely false, exactly the type of narrative that the power structure wants the public to propagate because it confuses and divides the population on the true state of planetary meltdown. Next question. Jamie asks this. Hi, Dane. The ground-based cell phone towers that have popped up like mushrooms everywhere, are they used as microwave transmission towers to help control the sprayed particulates and are critical for them? Yes. Short answer is yes. There is a massive and expanding grid of RF microwave transmission facilities that are absolutely used to manipulate the electrically conductive atmospheric particulates. That's when you see the herringbone patterns in the sky, the perfectly aligned cloud herringbone patterns. And often, depending on the region you're in, if there's enough transmitters in that region, you'll see such herringbone patterns in opposing directions, even perpendicular to each other, because the transmission facilities are overlapping in that type of a manner. And atmospherically, this couldn't happen without these transmissions manipulating the atmospheric particulates and creating these patterns. It's meteorologically impossible otherwise. Jamie further asks this. I love the 1980 news broadcast stating that there are about 30 extra days a year of clouds for farmers. Jamie's referring to a broadcast that was played on the Global Alert News weekly update. This was a mainstream media broadcast that was covertly selling climate engineering as something beneficial, which of course couldn't be further from the truth. The remainder of Jamie's question is this. Now we are lucky to have 30 days a year without the thick gray cloud cover. Thanks for pointing that out, Jamie. Yes, now it's very difficult to find any blue days or to experience any true blue skies anymore because the atmospheric aerosol saturation is ubiquitous all over the globe. So at best, we have hazy, light blue skies with a silvery white tint. If you block the sun, you can see the halo around the sun because the atmosphere is so saturated with these highly toxic particulates. Thank you for pointing that out, Jamie. Nancy asks this: hi, is the spraying in chemtrails coming with the virus in the air? Thank you. God bless, Nancy. Thank you for your question, Nancy. In answer to your question, we have peer-reviewed study to confirm that the CV-19 pathogen has indeed been found attached to atmospheric aerosol particulates. When we know the U.S. government has routinely done open-air biological tests on innocent U.S. populations, why wouldn't we consider this possibility or probability? As of 1977, as a matter of record, the U.S. military had conducted 239 open-air biological tests on the U.S. population. Business as usual. How many of these types of tests have they done since? We can't know. But this is certainly something we should expect to be the case. And when we look at the uniform dispersion of CV-19 in the first wave, about 25 countries within about 3 days. Second wave, 85 countries in the same amount of time. How do we get that uniform dispersion of this pathogen without an aerial delivery system? Why wouldn't they use this system? You can connect the dots on your own with that, Nancy, but thank you very much for your question. JF asks this: can you recommend any worldwide locations that have limited or / no spraying? The answer to that question, JF, would be yes and no. Are there locations or countries that do not seem to be participating in the aerosol spraying insanity? Yes, Iran is one. I'm not suggesting you move there, though to their credit, they are not participating in this insanity. In fact, quite the opposite. Their leaders have been on the floor of the UN calling out NATO for cutting off their rainfall, just as the U.S. government and U.S. military is cutting off the rainfall to the U.S. West Coast right now and have been for a very, very long time, completely disrupting the hydrological cycle. But in regards to where you can go to escape this contamination, there is nowhere to hide. The toxic aerosol fallout is ubiquitous all over the globe, though, as stated, it is worse in some areas than others. U.S. West Coast, one area. Spain, Portugal, some of the coastal regions in South America and other parts of the world, Australia. Depending on the patterns of atmospheric moisture flows, that's where it's seated most heavily, as I mentioned earlier in this broadcast. So those are areas that are hit hardest, where the climate engineers attempt to siphon off and expand that moisture in the widest possible area to create the largest possible SRM cloud cover. So no place to hide, but some areas are hit harder than others. Some countries are becoming increasingly reluctant to participate. We have contacts in South America that say that spraying is being reduced there. So if I was going to go anywhere, it would probably be somewhere in the southern end of South America for many reasons. Southern hemisphere, less likely to experience the extreme warming that's coming for the northern hemisphere. It will be delayed slightly there. Many factors to consider. Thank you for your question, JF. Samantha wrote us with this. Quote, I've long been very tired of the poisoning of our skies, food, water supplies, and our bodies. Every day I go out and see what's going on. I really want some change, but really don't know what an average person can do to fight the wealthy Goliath. She continues, then I thought, I'm a passionate speaker, and if ever you need someone, I'm willing to assist in any way I can. Every day I'm complaining to my friends about the adulterated skies. I'm tired of complaining and now want to act. I admire your strength, courage, and bravery. Thank you for all you do. Thank you, Samantha. It's our collective efforts that can yet make a difference. As far as what you can do, all of us can have a much greater effect in this equation than we would imagine possible if we simply arm ourselves with credible data from a credible source. Geoengineering Watch tries to be that source. We try to supply the materials that will make it easy to wake those around you, and then you wake others up. And let's look at this mathematically. If one person wakes two on a given day, and then those two wake two each the second day, and so on for 30 days, that means the total number of awakened would be in the many millions. It's 5 or 6 million, I believe. Not doing the math off the top of my head, but it's an exponential equation. We could reach a critical mass of awareness much faster than we would imagine possible. And if we can reach a critical mass of awareness, we have a chance of stopping these programs from the inside out. When those that are participating, military brothers and sisters, understand they are killing their own posterity along with the rest of us. They are eliminating any chance for any future for any of us by participating in these programs. And it's not enough for them to be told that they're doing something benevolent for the greater good. They need to stop, investigate, and think for themselves. They have an obligation to do so. They took an oath to protect their countrymen from all threats, foreign and domestic. They are contributing to programs of planetary omnicide. So, back to your question, Samantha, you can make an immense difference. Please check the activist suggestions link in the homepage of geoengineeringwatch.org to learn in much greater detail what you can do to help. And yes, any one of us could be the final grain of sand to tilt the scale in the right direction. Don't give up. We must never give up. Thank you for standing with us in this all-important effort, Samantha. Teresa asks this: did President Trump know that the spraying has been going on for years, and what was he doing about it? She continues with, I haven't heard a single word from Fox or any other mainstream TV station about this issue. Sometimes I think no one cares about us because of their own evil agenda, a one-world government. Teresa, the occupants of the White House, regardless of their political stripe, are simply puppets in the power structure play. Don't expect them to do anything about this issue or any other significant issue. They are not in control. They are simply there to divide and polarize populations and to distract the populations from the wider horizon. That's exactly what they've done. Thank you for your question, Teresa. Final question to be answered in this session of the Climate Engineering News Q&A from Claudia. Claudia states, I live in Ontario, Canada, and we have not seen the sun in 2 months. The moment the sun peeps out, it's covered over by dark cloud that does not dissipate. When I walk out in my neighborhood, I see so many trees where the trunks have split open. The trees are dying, as you know. Can you offer any feedback on what one can do about this? Who is doing this? Again, on the who is doing this part, Claudia covered that in the beginning of this episode. Those who control the money printing. That's who's behind all of this. That's who's behind CB19 as well. The power structure knows the planet can no longer support global populations. Mass die-off is already underway. And they will do everything they can to retain their power till the brutal, bitter end, even if it means rapidly accelerating the total planetary omnicide that's unfolding. In regard to the trees, they are dying all over the globe. No trees, no people. Very simple equation. The split trunks you see typically on the sun-exposed side from the intense UV radiation is cooking the Cambrian layer of the tree, killing it from tip to trunk, splitting the tree open, what appears to be splitting it open. It's just simply frying the Cambrian layer. And this exposes the tree to pathogens and a long, slow, protracted death. It's frying the foliage. Bottom line is you can cover those trunks. You can try to correct the soil pH that's being altered from the toxic precipitation. But the bottom line is this: if we don't expose and halt what's happening in our skies, it will very soon be game over. All of us are needed in the essential effort to reach a critical mass of awareness in the population. That is the only way forward in this fight, to stop it from the inside out. If global populations really understood what their governments have done to them without their knowledge and their consent, committing them to an experiment, i.e. climate engineering, aka weather warfare, an experiment from which there is no return, one can only imagine those justifiably enraged populations would take to the streets with their proverbial pitchforks and torches to seek out and find everyone who's responsible for the conducting of these programs or the covering up of these programs, to hold them legally and morally accountable. We must reach that point, and we must reach it soon, and all of us are needed in this battle. Again, go to the homepage of geoengineeringwatch.org, search the activist suggestions link to find out more about what you can do to help sound the alarm, to help tilt the scale in the right direction. Until the next installment of the Climate Engineering News Q&A, this is Dane Wigington with geoengineeringwatch.org.